the common denominator statement for all recessions. And I hope everybody hears this.
Never happened before.
Yeah, this time it's different, right? No, it isn't, right? It looks different to you, right? But it is not different. Yeah, I think when it comes to that, I think, not only food storage, but do you own a rifle? Do you own ammo? Do you know how to shoot? Do you even have any skill set whatsoever that you could go out and hunt if you needed to?
Yeah. Right.
When the pandemic first hit, we were living in Las Vegas, and I remember we went to Whole Foods, and I'm not exaggerating. I've got pictures of it. There wasn't a bottle of ketchup in the store. I'm talking nothing. There was nothing in the grocery store.
I remember it was the same way. Yeah, same way everywhere we were going.
And I just remember thinking, well, at least I've got guns and ammo, and if I need to, I can go out and I can shoot something. I can go out in the desert and I can get a deer, or I can get something to where I can provide for my family, and I don't have to worry about it that much.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a big key, and I know how to use them safely and effectively. I mean, it's people go, how many guns do I need? Well, I think if you had one gun and you knew how to use it really well, I'd fear a person like that, or trust a person like that more than someone who's got a bunch of guns, doesn't know how to operate them.
Exactly.
So I think that's if you have, I like to have a lot of guns. Yeah. I like to have options, right?
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, I only hunt with basically the same rifle all year for the most part.
Right.
And.
Well, that goes to anything, right? In business, if there's a tool that you're going to use, the better trained you are with that tool, odds are the more success you're going to have.
Yeah.
And
ammo right now, you can find ammo right now for decent amounts. I mean, when the pandemic happened, it was ridiculous. 9mm was going for like 80 cents a round. I think right now you can find it for probably 30 cents a round. So now is probably a good time to stockpile up on a little more of that too. Plus, it's fun to go shooting anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's do it before. I mean, these administrations that keep coming into office, they're some of the greatest salespeople for firearms that's ever existed. You know, there's more firearms purchased during Obama and during Biden's than there ever was during Trump's. I'm sure there's plenty during Trump too.
Yep.
But, sales are way up there, so they're doing a great job. They're trying to do the opposite. It's interesting, but the American people want to be able to exercise their rights. And the Second Amendment, it's a right to own a firearm. It's not a privilege; it's a right.
Right.
Versus
a God-given right.
It is.
Yeah.
And so those that maybe, I think there's so much to do for education for people that want to ban, assault rifles, which they're not even assault rifles. They're Armalite rifles they're talking about, right? But they want to disarm the law-abiding citizens. Well, if we disarm the law-abiding citizens because we make those illegal or hard to get, or get rid of firearms completely, and some people are that extreme, all that's left with the AR-15s are the criminals.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that way, right? We that's not the answer.
You know what? Even outside of that, even let's say no criminals in our country did have them. You know what makes me more nervous is the way other leadership looks at an unarmed country. Look at what Putin looked at Ukraine.
Yep.
Nobody owned guns in Ukraine. They had to pass them out when he started invading.
For sure.
Right? And so you look at a guy like Putin who ran the KGB. I mean, in the terms of being a badass, other than his, the way they run a country, I'm definitely not saying that he's a good leader or anything like that. But you don't disarm your population and expect a guy like him to just go, oh, yeah, it's okay, I'll stay away. No, you arm people and saying, hey, I dare you. It's like the whole thing, peace through strength, right, which comes back to strong men. And, I saw someone post something on social media today, and I told Kelsey, I go, you know what's sad about some people who've made a lot of money? It's almost like they're posting on social media, trying to, shove it in someone's face, like they have to prove something. Like, I did this, look at me, rather than saying, hey, I want to inspire you through strength. Yeah, I've succeeded, right? Or whether it's in a country, saying, hey, if everybody's armed, as a president, when we say, I'm so proud that our country has strong national security. It reminds me of that quote. I don't know if it's true, but after the United States bombed Japan after Pearl Harbor, And they asked the Japanese prime minister, are you going to invade the United States? And he said, you can't. They said, why? He said, because there's a rifle behind every blade of grass. Like, for me, I want other countries thinking that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go there. Those people will defend their land until the end. And they all have rifles. There's 300 million rifles in our country. And by the way, I think a smart question would be to ask is who owns those 300 million people and what are their views and perspective, or who owns those 300 million rifles? Because those perspectives really are what keep our country safe and have for a lot of years.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's never been a mass shooting from somebody who's a member of the NRA, right? And
I didn't know that. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because those that are members of the IRA, they donate the IRA for our rights.
Yeah.
And people that understand all of this aren't the ones that are mentally ill that are making these big mass shootings. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother topic. I think we kind of alluded that a couple episodes ago. But at the same time, that goes back to: are you looking for solutions?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for solutions how to make your life better during a recession? Are you looking for a way to make your thinking better? Mm-hmm. Are you looking for a way to grow your income? Are you looking for a way to decrease your expenses? Are you looking for a way to increase your skills? The question is, what is your perspective on all of this? And there's going to be a million opportunities, right, for people that happen. And not everybody's going to see them because they weren't looking for them. But if you're looking for them and you've done these things, man, your life is going to be incredible, and a recession could be the greatest thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, and I just think too, if you're not in a good place or haven't been in a good place, the exciting thing is you can start today, and you can turn it around really quickly.
Yep.
And I've always tried to look at it that way when you kind of foresee what's starting to happen. I go, okay, here we go. I can look at this one of two ways. I can look at it as, oh man, woe is me. This is happening. This is my account values are down. My real estate portfolio's down. Or I can look at it as, oh my gosh, this is opening up a new opportunity for me to grow and start today and make it even better.
Yes.
As it eventually comes to an end and recovers again. And not only is my current portfolio going to do well at that point, but the new one I'm building right now is going to really do well. So you can always take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's like this. It's like there's a recession about every 10 years in the United States, right?
10-year cycles.
So if we
pretty much count on it.
Yeah, so if we live to 80, by the time we're 20, we're going to see 6 recessions in our life. And the legacy you leave behind is based on the decisions you made over 6 times. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
You have 6 chances to make really good decisions and make wise decisions. And if over those 6 chances you make some good decisions, then at the end of your life you're going to leave behind a pretty dang good legacy.
Yeah.
Right? But it only takes one to have a negative experience and look at the next one as a negative and change, have a negative impact on your whole life. But it only takes one to have a positive experience. And for me, that's what happened. Yeah. And I'm so grateful to you because in 2008, when the recession hit, we were in Idaho, so it was a little bit more insulated. It had hit other places before it hit us, so we kind of had saw it coming. But we were living way below our means. I'm talking, we were living on like 10% of our income. Oh. And so when the recession hit, you just kept telling me, don't watch the news, just stay focused. And we did. We never watched television. We didn't know what was happening in the world. And we were saving and investing 80% of our income during 2008, 2009. And everybody thought we were crazy. They thought we were nuts. They were, what are you thinking, right? And that time set us up. We became, I became a cash millionaire. I was 25. I think my wife was 23 years old. And it was because of that. Without that recession happening, we hadn't made enough money at that point just from cash flow to be able to cause us to become millionaires. It was only because when it was down, I'm talking the Dow Jones went from, I think, like 12, 13 or 14,000 all the way down to like 6.
Yep.
And when it went down, we were just chucking everything we could into our investments, maxing out our retirement plans. And, man, I'm so glad we did. But it was because we did these things like you're talking about. We sought out people who had been there before. Mm-hmm. They seen what happens during a recession. They'd had some success from it. They had a positive outlook. And because of that, now for me, it's like I don't wish for a recession to happen on anybody else, but I'm glad when a recession happens because it presents tremendous amount of opportunity. And so I get excited. I come alive, man. I thrive during times like this,
What I love about that story is I think, someone might say, well, yeah, but Jeff and Kelsey, you guys were so young. young, you could afford to take the risk. And that is true. You were young and you could afford to take that risk. But let's learn from that. If you're in your mid-40s and you saw Jeff and Kelsey do that back then when they were early 20s, guess what? You can still take advantage of this opportunity now. It's very similar, where people go, man, this is the worst ever. This has never happened before. Rates have never gone up 0.75 points in one day ever in history, or whatever, right?
The common denominator statement for all recessions. And I hope everybody hears this.
Never happened before.
Yeah, this time it's different,
Yeah.
right? No, it isn't,
Yeah.
right? It looks different to you, right?
Yeah.
But it is not different, right?
Yeah.
The result is very similar.
Yeah. No, it's a natural thing. It has to happen. And
I would suggest that anybody listening to this should go on YouTube and type in Ray Dalio's How the Economic Machine Works. Because most people have no clue how our economy even works. And because of this, like, we don't learn this stuff in school. We don't learn what the Fed does. Most people think the Federal Reserve, because it has the word federal in it, is a part of the government.
Right.
It's not. It's a private institution, right? And so they don't even know how the monetary system of our country works, and they don't realize that a recession is actually mandatory for capitalism to succeed long term, right? It has to. It's called deleveraging, and everybody deleverages. Every business deleverages, and whether people in the middle class know it or not, recessions are them deleveraging too, right? And that's the way the world works. And so when you learn how something works, which is a skill, then you can use that as a tool to help better your life. But it's all back to perspective. So someone's saying, oh yeah, well, because they were young. What are you trying to accomplish by that? Like,
right.
How does that excuse, or how does that justification? I've always said those who lack the courage will always find a reason to justify it. Justify what? Whatever. Right? That quote's by Albert Camus, one of my all-time favorite quotes. Because you see people who don't succeed always have these justifications. And my question is, what are you trying to justify? Why? How does that make your life better by justifying why you haven't made a lot of money, why you haven't become successful, why you don't have a great family life, why you haven't become the best father that you can possibly be? None of us are perfect, but we shouldn't be justifying about why we're not getting better. It's okay to say, hey, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm not, right? I definitely make more mistakes than I would like to make, but I just want to be known as the man that wakes up every day and just tries to get better. I don't want anybody to think I'm perfect or anything like that, because I'm not. However, I am proud of myself for trying to get better every day. And I just try to surround myself with better people. I try to treat people good. And again, I have temper. I'm not always perfect, but it's just these small little things. I think that if you're going to have success during good times, it's the same exact mentality that is going to cause you to have great opportunities during down times.
Yeah. Something just came to my head as you're talking about this, and you not being perfect. What you are good at, and the reason why you've been successful is because you follow the philosophy of 90% of everything is your attitude and your activity. And you have a positive attitude and you take action every day. And some days you don't know exactly what to do, but you take action towards something positive, right? And right now, and maybe we can kind of wrap up with this a little bit today, but we live in a first world country if you're in the United States of America, right? Maybe we have people who listen to this worldwide. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that'd be cool.
Yeah, but we're in a first world country. How bad is it really for us? I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think keeping that perspective of, man, if you have a roof over your head, food in your belly, a car to get you to and from.
Just a car, period.
Or you can Uber if you need to. It's pretty dang awesome. And so sometimes we've got to catch ourselves and have that attitude of gratitude, because we get depressed when we're not grateful. It's impossible to be sad and grateful at the same time. So work on that gratitude, count your blessings, right? But we get to learn right now. This is a opportunity during a lifetime. You get to learn things that you don't get to learn every year.
Right.
And so that's happening right now. And I think as when it really comes down to it, we all know who's really in charge of everything anyway. And I try to remember there's a lot of stuff I can't control. And so I know that God's in control. I know everything I'm doing is hopefully to glorify him and do what he wants me to do. And it's all going to work out in the end.
Yeah.
It's all going to work out. So I don't know. I think being spiritually prepared right now is probably the most important preparation we can have, right?
Yep.
We're talking a lot about the physical stuff and, food storage and guns and first aid kits and all that stuff is definitely important. I think all that stuff you got to have because you do want to set your family up and be safe that way. But I think if you're spiritually prepared, you're going to be guided and directed and protected during whatever happens,
Yeah.
right? And you can genuinely be happy and have joy even during the worst of times. So I'm trying to, for me, I'm definitely, I got so much work to do on all this, but definitely trying to put myself in that position where, man, if everything just went away,
Yeah.
am I in a place to have a relationship with God, with my Savior, where I would be genuinely joyful and happy. I got my wife, got my kids. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's that saying, you can't preach love and kick a puppy. It's
true.
like, it's at some point we have to realize that really what does drive us is love, right? It is, and I think it's important, my wife and I talk about this a lot. It's important for us to love the Lord first, right? Because when I watch my wife do that, and I know when she watches me do that, it brings security because we know what the values and the characters or the character traits and the reason that happens, right? And our spouses watching that, I think builds so much security. And then your children watching you love each other like that gives them so much security that you love each other while loving a higher source. And then it gives your children so much security and safety. And so that is all just perspective, right? Yeah, like all this material stuff is awesome. Everybody should own a big house. Everybody should be able to drive nice cars. Everybody should have more money than they know what to do with because good people do good things with when they have enough, right? You can't fill someone else's glass up if yours is empty, right? That whole philosophy. Everybody should do that. I truly believe that everybody should at one point in their life be able to accomplish their dreams, whatever that may be. But at the same time, the most important thing in life is loving the Lord and having a spiritual relationship where you know that God's in control. Like, I didn't do any of this. This wasn't me. If I look back on our career, yeah, I can say, hey, man, I'm so grateful for you and Lexi and all the things you've done and all the incredible people that helped us in our career and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was God. And if we try to put the pieces to the puzzle together, this is why business school and colleges and all that kind of stuff. This is why everybody that goes to Harvard Business School doesn't become mega successful. Otherwise, if you went to school and you could learn everything and everybody knew exactly what to know, exactly what to teach, and exactly what to do, then everybody would become successful. So why is it? Because not everybody understands the law of the universe, if you will, that God created this.
Right.
And He's in control. You have so many people talking, I think I said this in one episode. It's like they're taking God out of everything and calling it the universe this or the universe that. But God created the universe. And when you start putting God first and having, understanding that humility and how can I help somebody else and putting others before yourself and having a selfless perspective and giving more than you receive, when you start operating through these principles and they're genuine and you have this genuine curiosity to see how much closer your relationship can get to the Lord, the better your life is going to become by default. And when it becomes better, it might not seem like it's getting better because it might seem like this challenge right now is the hardest thing you're going through. It might seem so uncomfortable. It might be like, man, why is this happening in my life? But then anytime you come out of the other side of that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's what God was preparing me for. Right? It's like I grew up poor.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any money, and I always wanted to become successful financially. And so as we started making a lot of money, when I first started, I just wanted a Ferrari, man. It's like if I could drive a Ferrari, and I could buy a Ferrari so many times over, I've never owned one. Why? Because I realized that wasn't the thing that mattered. But when you're young and poor, it's like you have this need to prove to others, like I mean something to the world. Well, you know what? When I know God loves me, I know my value.
Right.
And I don't need to drive a Ferrari to prove that to anybody else. I don't have nothing to prove to nobody. All I want to do is the best I can and be able to give back to the people in my life. And if I can make people's life better around me and they say, dude, why do you do this? and I can then have that conversation with somebody and they allow me to influence them, to me, that's all I need in life. Give me $100 million in the process, fine. Give me
Sure.
nothing in the process, fine. But either way, my life is considered a success to me because I made other people's lives better around me and I made an impact.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I think what we all got to put together, and Charlie Kirk says this. He says when your skills and your passion come together, that's your purpose.
Yeah.
And then when you follow that purpose, you have to worry about the money stuff. That
Right.
stuff is all taken care of itself. So I think this is a good time for people to be evaluating that. And if you don't currently have the skills you want to have, you can go to work on those. If you don't know what your passion is, you got to what is your passion? What are your skills to bring that passion together? And that's your purpose. And then how do you take that purpose and serve other people? And if you serve enough people, you're set.
Yeah, when it goes to passion, man, a lot of people will spend their whole lives trying to find their passion, and you're only going to be passionate at something you're great at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
when you talk about skills, like you're never going to be passionate about something you suck at.
Right.
It's just not, none of us like to do anything that we're not good at. We love to do things we're great at, and we're great at things that we do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually if someone's saying, man, I'm trying to find my passion, what is it? It's probably already in your life, and you have to ask yourself, like, what is it that I'm pretty dang good at and maybe better than most? And I would say continue moving in that direction, and eventually the money will come automatically because you separate yourself from the crowd, and people pay more for somebody who has separated themselves, whether it's a service or a product or whatever it may be.
Yep.
People are going to stay at a nicer hotel over a not as nice hotel. They're going to pay more money for it because they see more value. The same thing is in your career. The same thing is in anything in life, right?
Yep, for sure.
So.
Well, good, man. What else?
What else? How do you prepare for a recession? You know, I think that one other thing is that we haven't talked about is debt. You know, we have talked about leverage a little bit, and there's, you know, positive, you know, there are debt that can be used to make money. You know, if people continue to live beyond their means, they're going to continue to increase stress, which keeps them out of their creative stage.
Right.
And so I think debt, you have to ask yourself, do you have a plan to make more money, and then a plan to set up automatic, because you don't want to focus on your debt. You just want to have a plan to be able to get so wealthy it doesn't matter, right? That you can get out of it, you can pay off your house or whatever it may be that you decide to do. I've always been that guy. I've been so conservative in my career that, yeah, probably it's cost me, you know, some money, but what's more important to me is my peace at heart, you know, that I have a quality of life in addition to the freedom that money provides. Mm-hmm. And I think debt, so many people are so debt stricken.
Well, they make the mistake, you know, like you're saying, when you were younger, you wanted to get that Ferrari. And so they make the mistake, they start having a little bit of success, and they go get that Ferrari or the equivalent of that for them a little bit earlier than they maybe should. And then they get themselves in that over-leveraged type position to where they're good with their income continues to go up. But if there's any correction in that or change, then they put themselves in a position where now if they got that brand new car in their garage, they go to the garage and they see a brand new car, and all it does is depress them a little bit.
Yes.
And so, you know.
It no longer becomes something that helps them feel great. It actually becomes a ball and chain, something that they despise almost. I think a good rule of thumb financially, like you say, hey, but I want to do this and I've worked hard for it. Then I think a good rule of thumb is that don't buy a car that is worth more than your monthly income, right? So if you're making $5,000 a month, you probably ought to drive a $5,000 a month car. And you say, well, Jeff, but I can afford a nicer car than that. But can you really? Right? Can you really? Because how much money you got saved for your retirement? Or if you continue to do this, are you going to work till you die? Probably, right? So buy a car that's not worth more than your monthly income, and buy a house that's not worth more than your annual income. And if you can live those two philosophies financially, then you say, well, I want a nicer house. We'll make some more money.
Yep.
On a nicer car. We'll make some more money.
Right.
You know, this goes back to that whole thing about people taking off pressure. Like people don't understand that the financial services industry has created debt products that prey on people's desire to relieve pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Adjustable rate mortgages, 72-month car loans. By the time you pay off your car, you need a brand new one. So it's just these small things. But I think debt is a big one where if you can say, hey, I want this car. Good. Create a plan to say, I'm going to go make X amount of money in this amount of time, and then I'm going to reward myself with that.
Yeah.
But I think there has to be some places in your life where you say, I thrive under pressure. Pressure is a privilege. I thrive under it. This is who I am. When the pressure's on is when I rise to the occasion. That when someone puts weight on my shoulders, it doesn't crumble me. I get stronger, and it makes me a better person. And if you're the kind of person that responds that way, then what's going to happen is 5 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to be strong. You're going to have an incredible life. You're going to have great relationships. Why? Because you didn't punk out when the pressure was on. You rose to the occasion. And that inspires people around you too,
Yeah, it
right?
does, yeah.
How many people do we need around us when all of us at times, we wake up in the middle of the night or early in the morning. Sometimes I'd wake up early, I'd be in the shower and I'm like, man, who do I think I am? I don't know. Can I really do this? Am I good enough? Do I really have what it takes? And then I would get out of my house and I would get to the office and I would have guys jacked up and pumped up and, people are fired up about accomplishing their dreams. And all of a sudden I remember, oh yeah, pressure's a privilege, right? I'm honored to be able to do this and it makes me stronger. And then I look back on my life and I think it was those times where the pressure was on and I felt like this, I remember one time I called you, man, I just saved my first $1 million. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
I remember where I was sitting. I was in a Maverick parking lot in Boise, and I just checked our investment account. It had just gone over $1 million, and I was so pumped. I was so excited. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and I felt exactly the same way. And I called you from that Maverick parking lot, and I just went, dude, am I going to feel like this forever? Like nothing changed. I still have this feeling in my gut like you're supposed to be somebody. You're supposed to do more. And you remember what you said?
I don't remember.
You said, dude, if that feeling ever goes away, it's the day you're done.
Yeah.
That's the day you need to call me.
Yeah.
Not right now. It's a good thing you still got that feeling.
Right.
And I just thought it would feel different. I thought for some reason, man, if I got $1 million, I'm going to feel different. I didn't know that was God putting something in my soul saying, go for it.
Yep.
You're supposed to be somebody, and I think it's important. But you never know that until you're able to look back from maybe a higher point of view. My life is a lot better today than it even was then, and it's easier for me to look back.
Yeah, when you're in the picture frame, you can't see the picture.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it takes time to get yourself out of your own picture and look back and go, wow, I can see. And that's why it's important to ask somebody on the outside who's successful. I wouldn't just ask, you got to be careful who you listen to.
Yeah.
But somebody who knows what they're doing is looking at your picture going, hey, you could probably make a few tweaks or changes here that will probably make a huge difference in your business versus, somebody who just,
That's why everybody needs a coach.
Everybody
It doesn't
needs a
matter
coach.
where you're at.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's fitness. It doesn't matter if it's business. It doesn't matter if it's life. Everybody needs a coach, right? Let me ask you this. Maybe we can wrap up on this because I've learned a lot of this from you, right? And it was mostly caught because it's not like you ever said, hey, Jeff, you need to know this, this, or this.
Yeah.
Where did you learn it all from? Where did this come from? Like genuinely, because I know you started the business, you started your financial services business in 2000, right? And so when I met you, you'd already owned a successful business for a lot of years and been making a lot of money. And so I didn't obviously have the opportunity to see you before you were the man that you were at that point, which was successful and great thinking and all this kind of stuff. So you had already gone through another recession, right? 2001 in the financial industry was not an easy time.
Yeah, September 11th.
Yeah. So where did you learn this stuff? Where, so if someone's listening right now and they go, okay, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to go. I want to find all these things. Well, you learned it at some point too. And, in all fairness, I learned most of it from you. So where did you learn it from?
Are you talking about just winning mindset? What do you mean?
All of it. The mindset, the fundamentals of what to do with your money, finding a coach, your mindset behind whether it's survival, like, hey, being prepared, but you don't have to be fearful.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be prepared. It's okay to have, because you have food storage doesn't mean you expect something's bad going to happen.
Right.
You're just saying, hey, if it does, I'm ready.
Yes.
And I'm going to go focus on.
Man, only answer I have for that, Jeff, is I've been very blessed throughout my life to be around people that have helped me with all this stuff. Everything from, obviously, my parents, number one, taught me great principles of hard work and being prepared and saving your money. Both my grandparents, incredible grandparents. Lexi and I were actually talking about this the other night. How crazy is this? Okay, so in today's world, her side, my side, her parents, grandparents, great grandparents, all have been married, like no divorces.
Wow, that's awesome.
In today's world, right?
Yeah,
like that's pretty.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I feel like, God, I don't have a story where rags to riches type story. I don't have that. And I was telling Lexi about that. I go, but that's my story.
Yeah.
And how cool is that is just blessed.
Yes.
Extremely blessed. So that'd be number one. I've been blessed to have these principles taught from my whole entire life. Uncles, cousins, family. And then because of that, when I was attracted to the right kind of friends. And so were my siblings, by the way.
That's a big point. So what I just heard you say is that you were attracted to, let's just call it success, whether it was successful marriage, successful people that made a lot of money. You were attracted to success because of the example that your family had set.
Yeah, because of
That's big, dude.
the feeling you have around those people. There's a feeling there that I think, unfortunately, a lot of the world doesn't get to experience a whole lot. And I grew up in that feeling.
Yeah, how awesome. And by the way, I think that qualifies you in a special way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you saying, I don't have that story. Your story is just as relevant from somebody who started from nothing and did something big. Because how many people grew up in a household like yours? There are a lot of them, and that they don't appreciate it. And maybe they were the ones that changed it all when you decided to be the man that said, we're going to keep this incredible legacy going because you appreciate it and looked at it a positive perspective, right? Awesome.
Yeah, well, I think, and I would hope that people would be able to look at this situation and go, okay, why was their family like that, and what can we maybe do in our family to adopt those positive things? Right, so that our family can be similar to that. Not that we have a perfect family.
It's like a sponge, right? You soak up everything.
Sure.
And then you squeeze it out, you keep what you need, and then you move on, right?
Yeah. But it is crazy. Like, I mean, aunts, uncles, cousins, no one's got divorced.
So awesome.
It's amazing. So anyway, but then, as I got a little bit older, seeing I worked for my cousin who was a hard worker in a general contractor construction. He was becoming successful, happy, just focused, and I want to be like him,
Yeah.
And then my cousin's successful in real estate. My uncle's successful broker. I just watched them. So just wanting to be their people skills, the way they treated people, the way other people treated them.
Yeah.
So I caught a lot of this stuff being around them. And then I went on my mission, and here's what's funny. Yesterday, I haven't said this today, but yesterday was a crazy, incredible day in my life. There were like 6 different events that happened yesterday that if like half of them go half good, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And I think they're all going to go good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, yesterday was a day that God said, okay, you've been trying to figure stuff out the last year and a half. Let me just prove it to you that I'm here for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but you also, my guess is you've been in prayer.
I have, yes. Now, here's the thing. So yesterday, all those things happened, and guess who called me? My mission president.
Awesome.
Actually, he texted me.
Yeah.
And he texted me looking for a hunt. He's a hunter, right? He goes, hey, I'm looking for a whitetail hunt. Now, I've talked to him once since I've been home from my mission, and then he texted me again yesterday.
And how long ago was it you got home from your mission?
Yeah, it's been 20. I'm 43, so 23 years, yeah.
So 23 years later,
22, 23 years, yeah.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, the reason that was impactful, the reason I bring that up is because he was a huge impact as far as my mindset goes. Super successful businessman. He's been a consultant in many businesses since then. Has just done very well. So I was his assistant in my mission. So I was around him all the time. And then when I got home from my mission, all that was programming, right?
Yeah.
So it was all in me.
Why do you think he chose you as his assistant?
So when
was that something you volunteered for? Was
no,
that something he chose you?
You get called.
Was it random?
You get called to whatever. Yeah. So I mean, they're going to look for leadership qualities. They're going to look for.
Hardworking. You were showing up early, staying late. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's a big point. I just wanted to point that out. That was my guess.
There were discussions back then. We used to teach out of discussions, and there were 6 different pamphlets that were destructive. I had them all memorized.
Yeah.
And I did that the first few months of my mission. I just buckled down because I wanted to just know it so it was reflexive.
Yeah.
So all that I learned on my mission. So when I got out of my mission and you know, started dating Lexi right away as well, she was just as disciplined with softball, right? So we came together being two disciplined people. And then when I got into Primerica, then I was fortunate to be able to be introduced to like Chris Howard and Hector Lamarck and Brendan Merton, who I was in his office, and a guy named Kurt Blackburn, who actually originally started training me. Mm-hmm. But they basically pointed me in the direction of Hector Lamarck, who had all the audios of how to think, what to say, how to treat people, people skills. And I learned a lot of that stuff prior. So when I started hearing Hector, I'm like, this is stuff in my heart I already know.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just continued to apply those principles when I got into financial services. And you know, and I got, people are always talking about balance, right? And I got out of balance, right, for a while on super focused on getting my career going.
Bro, you are still out of balance.
You got
way too much freedom.
We're always out of balance. There's no such thing as balance.
I agree. It's a myth.
It is. So I just got so focused on. I mean, I got married to Lexi, and I'm like, hey, career time. Like, so when I got back from my mission, by the way, I didn't want to date. I wanted to like get married, get on with my life, get my career going, and go, right?
Yeah.
And again, I saw these people's lives that I grew up around, and I just wanted to have that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's just a combination of being blessed to be around so many influential people.
Yeah, it reminds me of a powerful thing that Whittle told me. I mean, so many things, man. I'm just so grateful for him. But he told me one time, he said, Jeff, your goal is to build such a great environment that your children can't wait to get out of your house to build what they had in your home.
Right.
He said the biggest mistake most people make is with their children. Their children can't wait to get out of their house to get out of the environment they're in. Mm-hmm. And that's two totally different things, right? Where when your child goes, man, I can't wait to go get out and get married and have a family because of this loving environment and caring environment and what you felt, right? I don't know. I'm guessing, knowing, I mean, I know your mom and dad. I'm guessing they didn't like tell you these principles in words,
no,
rather than just showcase you with their example.
Yep.
Right.
And I did come back to the friends. I made good friends that were good, virtuous friends, I would call them, right? We were still kids and young boys and did, crazy stuff and had dirty minds here and there.
Yeah.
I'm not
nothing's changed.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't get me wrong, but we didn't do anything crazy. Never smoked, never drank alcohol. I just never did any of that stuff, and neither did any of my friends.
Right.
So being around them, and then their parents tended to have the same type of
values.
So it's all connected. I'm telling you, my friends, their parents were all married.
Yeah.
None of them ever got. I didn't have friends that had divorced parents.
Well, it's because
I'm serious. It's crazy.
Because your parents were also probably understood that. Your friends' parents understood that. And they were wise enough to probably influence you guys having long-term relationships as children.
Yep.
Because, I'm a father. I want my kids to have good friends.
Right.
Right. And I don't care what any parent says. Your children are either like the kids they hang out with or in the process of becoming those kids. And so, choosing who you spend time around is awesome. But, I'm guessing your parents influenced that a lot. Did they encourage you to hang out with these kids? Or?
No. I mean, we just chose. I just chose. That's and my siblings were the same way. And
how cool.
People go, okay, so why? And I'm telling you, Jeff, it's the gospel.
Yeah.
It's God in our life.
Yep.
And we were talking about this yesterday, talking about somebody that we saw on social media fairly recently that kind of said, I built this. I'm not much of a believer in God. And what happened shortly after, right? His life started to crumble and fall apart.
In front of the world, too.
In front of the world. Now, look, there's people that don't believe in God that are doing well and do good things for people. Mm-hmm. I'm not judging anybody. This is my belief, right?
Yeah.
But I that's the only main answer I can see is we have a solid foundation as a family in the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's like this. If you're not grateful and humble for the things God has blessed you with, soon enough, those things God has blessed you with will be gone.
Yeah.
Right. And
right.
Yeah, just understand. I think that's a good principle to live by is just understand this. None of this was us.
No.
Right. It was someone else, the people around us and the influences, but all those were influenced by God,
Yeah.
right? And
Look at the
those
Bible
values.
stories. Look at Solomon. Look at look
Yeah.
at Samson. Look at all these stories where when they had God on their side, they were these powerful leaders.
Yep.
And as soon as they made the mistake of detaching from God, what happened?
Yep.
Everything fell apart, right? So
Yeah, there's so many great success stories that people can learn, right? From Paul, right?
Yeah.
To go, if you want to learn about money and wisdom, you go read Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. I think there's so many great success principles that aren't just revolved around money, but I mean success in anything in your life.
Right.
That if more people would really spend, I mean, including myself, we spend more time really trying to understand what God is trying to teach us with these stories, and we sought out to live our lives and then influence other people with those same messages. I think that what happens is we start building generational legacies like your family has.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome. Because that inspires me, because my family's not like that.
Yeah.
My wife's family isn't either, right? It's like I don't know, my great-grandparents on both sides were married. But I don't know, outside of that, everybody was divorced.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in this broken environment, and I moved out at a young age. I couldn't wait to get out. I wanted to get out, get away, and go do my own thing. But I also didn't have the understanding of choosing. Jefferson on, I think, episode 3, he talked about this, right?
Yeah.
In high school, he could have chose to hang out with better kids, right? And we had a lot of great kids we went to school with, man. We moved back a couple years ago, and I've reconnected with a lot of kids we went to school with, and I'm so proud of so many of them. And he could have done, so could I. And it wasn't that we chose not to. It was that it didn't feel right for us. It didn't feel, I think for me, for sure, it didn't feel right to hang out with these kids that I felt like I had nothing to relate to, because I was in such a broken environment. And then as I get older and wise and I spend more time with people who I really respect and appreciate, I realize that choosing who you surround yourself is amongst the most important things that you can do in life.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
The people you surround yourself
Yeah,
with.
and I'd hope anybody listening to this, if that hasn't been your life, right? I mean, look at where you came from.
Yeah.
And the decisions you've made to get on that path.
Yeah.
is awesome, right? Because we have no control over where we came from.
Right.
But what we sure as heck can do is we can get ourselves on the right path. And if you like my story of that kind of life and how our family is, again, not perfect. We all have our disagreements. We all have our challenges and issues. However, the most important things in our families are intact.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this, man. I think that, I've watched you go through hard times in life.
Yeah.
And I've watched how you responded, and I think over the years how much more respect I've gained for you, because I think I don't know that I would have handled that situation that way, and me watching how you handled the situation just makes me think like that. I mean, and this shows you the power of influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I allow you and to influence my life,
Yeah.
and how much of an impact that will have on my life, right, and my children,
Right.
because I allowed that to happen. So, man, it's awesome. It's awesome to sit here and talk about this. And as I'm thinking about it, your grandparents or your great-grandparents were making decisions that literally would impact my family years later. How awesome.
Amazing.
So people listening to this, by choosing to make those, you can have an impact on people you never knew, that can create generational legacies that can really change families' lives forever, change children's lives forever, because you decided to apply pressure in positive areas, have a good perspective, respond correctly under challenging times, which it doesn't matter if it's the same. We're having a challenging time in an economy or a relationship or whatever it is. If you respond a certain way, you're going to get a certain result. Right.
Right.
So awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, you too, man. I mean, it's just you've been a great example to me as well. It's funny how that reciprocates, and I learned so much from you, and just you taking that. And another thing about life, I mean, you go through where, okay, maybe I was the leader in the beginning, but you also have been a leader to me, and how you reciprocate that throughout your life. It goes back and forth, and things that you were excelling in right now that I'm going, dang, that's awesome. I got to learn from that, and that's what it's all about. You know, growing together. I mean, you have some incredible deals that you're working on putting together right now. And had you not shown them to me, I wouldn't know about them, or even. And you're like, dude, I don't know exactly how to do some of this stuff, but I'm learning. And here's how we're going to make it happen. I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Awesome.
So love it. I mean, what a life we get to live, and hopefully, Yeah, we just hope we can help a bunch of other people do the same, right?
Yeah, I think
Best
we
we
are,
can.
man. I've been getting so much great feedback from this, and so
Oh.
I look forward to just continue inspiring people and continue growing myself so that, you know, we can continue providing value and really changing people's lives. I think I never would have thought when we started this, you know, you called me up one day and said, hey, let's do this. I never would have thought that when we started this that what would happen to my mind, and I can't stop thinking about, man, you know, and just the things that we know that I don't think about all the time. Like, oh man, you know, most people need to know this. I don't think that until I'm in a position where, like, all right, we're on a podcast and I want to be able to provide some people with some good value.
Well, I'm trying not to take it for granted that we have and realize a lot of people are looking for this, because I'm still learning how to do this dang podcast thing, right? I'm like awkward on this thing still, by the way.
It's just what happens.
And I'm just trying to get into it. I think when we really get our groove, I don't think we have our groove yet.
No,
you know what I mean? And so hopefully people can be patient with us till we find that, because it's getting what's in here out to everybody.
Yeah, being able to explain it in a way that really captures the heart of people listening.
Because I take it for granted. My life in so many ways. I'm like, wait a minute, this is working because of this, and people need to know. They want to know, and they want to know how to win, how to be successful in all areas of life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, what happens is it's almost like the frog in water. You know, we get in this environment for so long, we just think it's normal.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
Man, it's normal because everybody around us has this life too, and then we forget. And
it's always a great eye-opener when you go visit like an inner city, the slums, right?
Yep.
Or you go to a third world country and then you come back here. It's always a good, I think probably, ideally it'd be good to do something like that every year with your kids. Let's go somewhere. Let's do a mission trip and serve in somewhere, some poverty-stricken area.
Yep.
So that you can just keep the perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I mean, those people are usually the happiest people.
They
are.
People
that have nothing.
Yep.
And it's because they realize they have everything, because they have their relationships and their family, and they have everything. Here we are. We have all this crap.
Yep.
Right? And we have our families too, but we forget, not only do we have our families, anyway, it's
because life is so comfortable, people have enough time to complain about what they don't have.
Yeah.
Right? Where for most people, and unfortunately in America, you know, the poorest people in our country are amongst the wealthiest people on the planet. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the you know, if you want to call them that, the poor people in our country never travel. So they never get out of our country to be able to go see what it's actually like and realize like how grateful we could be, because you're right. A lot of people in third world countries are so happy.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't.
This is why you got to see Matt Walsh's movie, What is a Woman? Because he travels to Africa and he's asking them like, what is a woman? And they answer it. They go, it's a woman. It's a female human, right? And adult female human. And so he's asking questions. So can a woman have a baby? And they're like laughing about it, right? Because these people in Africa are like, that's a ridiculous.
Can a man have a baby?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can a man have a baby?
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a ridiculous question, because they're focused on surviving.
Yes.
They're going to hunt and they're raising their families and they're living the way that God intended them to live.
Yep.
And then we come here and we because America is a promised land, because this is a promised land. God has blessed it immensely, but guess what? If we start turning the other way and take God out of it, guess what? We're going to lose the promised land. So we better step up, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I think if we can accomplish inspiring more people to have desire to do that, is step up and step forward with faith, knowing that great things are going to happen if they do the right things. I would say we accomplished something good, man.
Amen.
Yeah.
Let's do it, brother.
All right. Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate your time today.
You too.